Hi guys, welcome to the Raven Wolf channel. This is Anna, and today I'm going to be talking about the difference and the disagreements between Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. So the first one is the unconscious mind. So one of the central disagreements between Jung and Freud was their differing concepts of the unconscious. Freud's position on this, he believed that the unconscious mind was the epicenter of our repressed thoughts, traumatic memories, and fundamental drives of sex and aggression. He saw it as a storage facility for all hidden sexual desires, resulting in neurosis, or what we will nowadays will call mental illness. Freud also declared that the human mind centers upon three structures: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id forms our unconscious drive, mainly sex, and it's not bound by the morality, but instead only seeks to satisfy pleasure. The ego is our conscious perceptions, memories, and thoughts that enable us to deal effectively with reality. And the superego attempts to mediate the drives of the id through socially acceptable behaviors. Now, Jung's position on this also divided the human psyche into three parts. But in Jung's view, the unconscious was divided into the ego, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. To Jung, the ego is the conscious. The personal unconscious includes memories, both recall and suppressed. And the collective unconscious holds our experiences, such as species or knowledge that we are born with. For example, love at first sight. Jung's take on the human psyche was inspired by his studies in the Eastern philosophy and religions such as Buddhism and Hinduism. He also believed that the content of the unconscious are not restricted to repressed material. So the second disagreement between these great minds were about the dreams. So Freud's position believed that he could learn much about an individual through an interpretation of dreams. Freud argued that when we are awake, our deepest desires are not acted upon because they are the considerations of reality, the ego, and also morality, which is the superego. But during sleep, these restraining forces are weakened, and we may experience our desires through our dreams. Freud also believed that our dreams are able to access repressed or anxiety-provoking thoughts, mainly sexually repressed desires, that cannot be entertained directly from fear or anxiety and embarrassment. Thus, defensive mechanism allows a desire or thought to slip through into our dreams in a disguise, in a symbolic form. For example, when someone is dreaming of a large stick, in Freud's view, he will be dreaming of a penis. It was the job of the analyst to interpret these dreams in the light of their true meaning. Now, Jung's position on this, like Freud, Jung believed that dream analysis allowed for a window into the unconscious mind. But unlike Freud, Jung did not believe that the content of all our dreams was necessarily sexual in nature, or that they disguise their true nature or true meaning. Instead, Jung's depiction of dreams concentrated more on the symbolic imagery. He believed that dreams could have many different meanings according to the dreamer's associations. Jung was against the idea of a dream dictionary, where dreams are interpreted by fixed meanings. He claimed that dreams speak in a distinctive language of symbols, images, and metaphors, and that they portrayed both the external world, example, individuals and places in person's day-to-day life, as well as person's internal world, like feelings, thoughts, and emotions. Jung agreed that dreams could be retrospective in nature and reflect events in childhood, but he also felt that they could anticipate future events and that could be a great source of creativity. Jung criticized Freud for focusing purely on the external and objective aspects of a person's dream rather than looking at both objective and subjective content. Finally, one of the more distinctive aspects of Jung's dreams theory was that dreams could express personal as well as collective or universal content. This universal or collective content was displayed through Jung's term of archetypes. And I'm going to explain a little bit the term of archetypes according to Carl Jung. So archetypes are universally inherent prototypes which help us to perceive and act in a certain way. Jung argued that our distant ancestors' experience of universal concepts like God, water, and earth were transmitted through the generations. People in every time period had been influenced by their ancestors' experience. This means that the content of the collective unconscious are the same for each individual within a culture. These archetypes are symbolically expressed through dreams, fantasies, and hallucinations. So, number 3 of the disagreements between is about the sex and sexuality. So, Freud's position was that one of the biggest areas of conflicts, if not the biggest, between Freud and Jung was their differing views of human motivation. To Freud, repressed and expressed sexuality was everything. He felt it was the biggest motivating force behind behavior, and such as psychology. This is clear from the dogmatic theories regarding psychosexual development, as well as the infamous theories of the Oedipus complex, and to a lesser context, the Electra complex. In the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex, a young man unknowingly murders his father, marries his mother, and has several children by her. In his Oedipus complex, Freud suggests that the male children have a strong sexual desire towards their mothers and have savage resentments towards their fathers, like in a competition for their mother. In the Electra complex, this is reversed, is that the female children who have sexual desires towards their fathers and wish to remove their mothers. For this, young male children fear that their fathers will remove or damage their penises in punishment for their feelings towards their mother, which it's called castratonic anxiety. For female children, the realization that they do not have a penis and that they cannot have a relationship with her mother leads to penis envy, in which they desire their father's penis. This then moves to sexual desire for the father. Freud theorized that these anxieties will then be repressed and will play out through defense mechanisms and anxiety. Then Jung's position on this, he felt that Freud's attention was too focused upon sex and its impact and behavior, which I really agree with Jung's position on this. Jung decided that what motivates and influences behavior is a psychic energy or life force, of which sexuality could be only one potential manifestation. Jung also disagreed with the Oedipal impulses. He thought that the relationship between mother and child was based upon the love and protection granted by the mother to the child. These views were to be later built upon by John Bowlby and Mayne Ainsworth in basic attachment theory and internal working models. So number 4 is the religion, the difference between how these two saw religion. So Freud's position, although Jewish by heritage, Freud left that religion and was escaped from most people. Like Karl Marx, he felt that religion was the opiate of the masses and it should not be propagated. That said, Freud grappled with the problem of mythology and religious institutions for most of his life. He collected many antiquities, most of which were religious, like Leonardo cartoon, which has the Madonna and a child with Saint Anne hung in his house. Some scholars have suggested that Freud saw religion as a disguised psychological truths he felt lie at the heart of the human mental distress. Jung's position was that religion was a necessary part for the individuation process and offer a method of communication between humans. This was based upon the idea that the archetypes and symbols present in many of the different religions all translate into the same meaning. Although he did not practice a specific religion, Jung was curious and explored religions from the archetypal viewpoint, particularly the Eastern philosophies and religions. During the argument and correspondence between Freud and Jung, Freud accused Jung of being anti-Semitism. And number 5, which is going to be the last disagreement between these two that I'm going to cover, it's about the parapsychology. So Freud's position was completely skeptic about all things paranormal, like straight up. Now, Jung's position was heavily interested in the fields of parapsychology, and in particularly in psychic phenomena, such as telepathy and synchronicity, which could come to form part of his theories. In this youth, Jung often attended seances, and his doctoral thesis investigated the psychology and pathology of so-called occult phenomena, which feature his cousin as a medium. In 1909, Jung had visited Freud in Vienna to discuss Freud's views on the paranormal. As they talked, it soon became clear that Freud had a little time for such ideas and continued to discourage Jung from pursuing them. As they continued to talk, Jung felt a weird sensation on his abdomen. Just as Jung became aware of this sensation, a loud noise erupted from a bookcase standing next to them. Jung claimed that it must have been a paranormal origin, but Freud angrily disagreed. As they continued to argue, Jung claimed that the noise would happen again, which it did, and both men stared at each other in amazement, but never spoke about the incident again. This lifelong interest in the paranormal and its impact on human psychology contributed significantly to the development of Jung's influential but controversial theories of synchronicity. This term was coined by Jung to describe a causal connection of two or more psychic phenomena. This theory was inspired by a patient's case where the patient dreamt of a golden scarab. The next day, during a psychotherapy session, a real golden scarab hit the window, a very rare event. The proximity of these two events led Jung to believe that it was no coincidence, but an important link in between the external and the internal world of the individual. So the conclusion is that in looking at Freud and Jung, it is important to put the difference between them into context of their personalities and also in the cultural time period in which they lived and worked. And it is also valid to recognize that there are also significant similarities. Both men in the beginning of their relationship were tremendously excited by each other's intellectual company and initially spent 13 hours in deep conversation, sharing their thoughts on the unconscious and methods of treating psychopathology. They both gave rise to the idea of the unconscious and the importance of dreams in understanding problems. And as to the question of who's the winner in the battle of Freud and versus Jung, the answer is that modern day psychotherapy won, with their theories so important that they are still behind many psychotherapeutic approaches used today. And like I mentioned in my last video, in the Mayan astrology video between these two, is that I definitely resonate more towards Carl Jung's theories about the collective unconscious and the parapsychology stuff. So what do you guys think? Leave me a comment and let me know. I'm curious to know. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Bye.